You're born around the year 1270 in the city of Thebes, more than 3,000 years before anyone watching this was even an idea. Egypt is the richest, proudest civilization on the planet. Golden temples, a living god on the throne, a river that floods on schedule like the universe runs on a timetable. And you're born into the one family in town that everyone is quietly glad they're not. Your father handles the dead, so you will handle the dead. That's not a career path. That's a sentence. Congratulations on your inheritance. It smells terrible. Here's the trap, and it's a good one. In Egypt, touching a corpse makes you ritually unclean. Not dirty, unclean. A spiritual stain that the priests sniff at and the neighbors avoid. The same society that worships the dead, that builds mountains of stone to house the dead, that spends fortunes pampering the dead, treats the men who actually touch the dead like a smell that won't leave the room. You are essential, and you are untouchable, at the exact same time. You can't marry into a respectable family. You can't switch trades, because the trade is hereditary, and the gods assigned it to your bloodline. You can't move away because every necropolis is run by guilds exactly like yours, and they don't take walk-ins. So what do? You do what your father did. You report to the desert's edge, and you learn the family business. It's like a family startup, except the product is corpses and the equity is zero. The training takes years. Nobody hands you a knife on day one. First you carry things. You haul jars, you wash linen, you grind salt, you stand in the workshop, a low building of mud brick and reed near the cemetery, far enough from town that the wind carries the worst of it away from people who matter. Then there's the tent. The Egyptians call the first stage the place of purification, which is a generous name for a tent where bodies are emptied and dried. You learn the hierarchy fast. At the top sits the chief embalmer, and on the big jobs he wears a jackal mask because he's playing the part of Anubis, the dog-headed god who guides the dead, cosplaying the god of death. Except it isn't a convention. It's Tuesday. Below him is the lector priest, who reads the sacred spells aloud so the soul knows where to go. Below him is the cutter, the man who opens the body. And below everyone, the wrappers, the haulers, the salt grinders. You, for now. You learn the timetable because eternity, it turns out, runs on a schedule too. The whole process takes about 70 days. Roughly 40 of those days, the body just sits, packed and covered in a salt called natron, drying out completely. Because moisture is what rot loves, and your entire job is to starve the rot. Natron is basically the industrial cat litter of the afterlife. You learn the organ rules. The lungs, the stomach, the intestines, the liver, all removed and dried separately, each one tucked into its own jar guarded by one of the 4 sons of the god Horus. 4 organs, 4 jars, 4 divine babysitters. It's a meal prep service for the soul and the heart. The heart stays, because the Egyptians believe the heart, not the brain, is where you think, where you feel, where your whole self lives. The dead man will need it later, when his heart is weighed on a scale against a single feather, too heavy with sin, and a monster eats it, and he dies the real death, the forever one. So you do not touch the heart, ever. You leave it exactly where it beat. Want to guess what they do with the brain? Right? Wrong. The brain is garbage to them, worthless meat. They reach it through the nose, and when it comes out, it does not get a jar, it does not get a god, it does not get a prayer. It gets thrown away. You will spend your whole life carefully preserving stomachs and revering hearts and discarding the actual organ that made the man a man, because everyone is certain it did nothing. That's not a mistake you're allowed to point out. That's theology. Then comes your first body, and everything is normal, right up until the screaming starts. He's a fisherman, drowned in the river, pulled out swollen, 2 days too late. The family brings him in at dawn, and you're handed the natron and told to watch and assist. You think you're ready. You've smelled the workshop. You've carried the jars. You stand there in the gray light, feeling almost professional. And then the cutter steps up with his blade of dark stone, and he opens the man's side in one long line. And the moment he does it, the other workers grab stones from a pile by the door, and they hurl them at him, shouting, cursing him, driving him back out of the tent. Because cutting open a body, even to save its soul, is a violation so deep that the man who does it must be ritually punished for it every single time. Egypt's first gig worker, do the necessary evil, then get pelted on your way out. No tips, you flinch. And that's when the hired mourners outside lift their voices. Dozens of women paid to wail and shriek and tear at their hair, and the sound goes up like a wall. And the smell rolls out of the open body and hits the back of your throat, and you are on your knees in the sand, bringing up your breakfast while a god in a dog mask watches you patiently. Welcome to the family business. It does not get easier. It gets routine, which is worse. You climb the ladder season after season. You stop being the one who vomits and start being the one who hands the new boy his natron and pretends not to watch him crumble. The bodies keep coming because people keep dying, and some years they die faster than you can dry them. Fever years. The river brings sickness with the flood, and suddenly the workshop is stacked, and you're working in heat that would cook bread, breathing resin smoke and dust and decay until your own lungs start to feel like something you'll regret later. You learn the menu, too, because Egypt invented the premium subscription tier 3,000 years before anyone streamed anything. There's the top package, the full 70-day treatment with the finest imported resins, fit for nobles and priests. There's the middle option, faster, cruder, a purge instead of careful surgery. And there's the budget version for the poor, which is barely more than a wash and a wrap and a prayer you don't really have time to finish. Same eternity, 3 price points. The gods apparently check your receipts. And here's the thing they wrote down about you, the men who guarded the dead, stated plainly because it has to be. There was a rule. The bodies of beautiful women, of high-born women, were not handed to the embalmers fresh. They were kept 3 or 4 days first, deliberately, before anyone was allowed to touch them. Sit with why a rule like that had to exist at all. The richest society on earth built a law around the simple fact that it did not trust the men it forced to handle its dead. You are the law's whole reason. You are the thing it was written to contain. You preserve the people, and the people are afraid of you. And history records that the fear was not entirely unfounded among your trade. You don't get to feel clean about any of it. But you're still a person under the resin and the salt. And one morning they bring in someone you know. A neighbor. A man you grew up beside, who used to nod at you in the market when no one important was looking, which from a respectable man toward an embalmer was practically an embrace. Now he's on your table. And the chief tells you to take the lead, because you've earned it, and your hands are steady and your face is stone, but somewhere behind your ribs, something is screaming louder than any hired mourner. You do the work right. You do it slowly. You do it kind. And when no one is watching, you slip a small protective amulet into the wrappings low against his side, a little blue charm to keep him safe on the road he's walking now. It costs you a day's wage you can't spare. You whisper his name so the gods don't lose track of him. Then you wrap his face, and you can't see it anymore. And that night you go home to your one-room house at the edge of the dead city, and you cry until the lamp burns out. Nobody comforts you. Comforting you would mean touching you. Years pass like that. Hundreds of bodies. Hundreds of names you whisper, and amulets you can't afford, and breakfasts you keep down now, because nothing surprises you anymore. The resin gets into your chest and stays. The cough starts small. You tell yourself it's the dust. It is not the dust. And who preserves the man who preserves everyone? Guess. The end, when it comes, is almost funny in the way a thing can be funny and unbearable at once. You go down with a sickness in your lungs, the slow kind, the kind that turns every breath into negotiation. You lie in your little room and you understand with perfect professional clarity exactly what is happening inside your own body because you've seen it from the outside 1,000 times. You know the timetable, you know the smell that's coming, and you know that when it's over, there will be no 70 days for you. No jackal mask, no careful jars, no imported resin from 1,000 miles away. Your family will wrap you fast and cheap, the budget package, because that's all anyone in the trade can ever afford. And they'll carry you out to the desert's edge and lay you in the dry sand in a shallow grave. And that will be that. And the sand will do what the sand always did, long before anyone invented your craft. The hot, dry desert will pull the water from you and preserve you for free, naturally, the way it preserved the poor for thousands of years before the first embalmer ever picked up a blade. The whole proud, expensive industry you gave your lungs to was just an elaborate attempt to buy what the dirt offers everyone for nothing. The desert will keep you better than your art ever kept a king. It just won't bother to learn your name first. You gave 1,000 strangers a road to eternity. The desert gave you the same thing, for free, in a shallow grave nobody marked, and it never once asked who you were.